Ignatian Magis consists in doing more, in doing things in a more excellent way. More does not mean to do many things, but concentrate on one thing and do it to the maximum satisfaction of your effort, so that the thing that you do becomes excellent and ennobled and appreciated by the people. Like Jesus said to Martha, you are busy with too many things. So concentrate on one thing and achieve excellence. That's why Ignatius did not say most, because most means it is closed. It is finished. No, I must think more, say more, and act more to promote the glory of God. That is called Ignatian Magis. Ignatian AMDG. Now AMDG you will find in all Jesuit institutions inscribed on their buildings. That means Ad Maiorem Dei Gloriam, for the greater glory of God. Because God has created human beings as crown of all creation. He has entrusted the whole creation in the hands of man, and therefore he has to do everything, develop the world knowledge and love for nature and creatures. Because in the spiritual exercises of Ignatius of Loyola, in the first meditation itself, called Principle and Foundation, it starts like this: man is created to praise and reverence and serve God, and thus save souls. So ad maiorem Dei Gloriam. Whatever I think, whatever I say, whatever I do, always must lead to the glory of God. Ardere contra is a Latin term which means to fight against fleshly temptations. Suppose you are addicted to TV, you want to get rid of that addiction. You choose the opposite, ardere contra. Suppose you want to read Lives of Saints, so switch off the telephone, switch off the TV, and then go against your grain, as they say. That is the one way of conquering oneself. That's what Ignatius meant when he said ardere contra. You like something and which is not very helpful, which is harmful, then you choose the opposite. Ignatian tantum quantum is a Latin word which means so far as. Honey is good, but if you empty the bottle into your stomach, that becomes harmful. Therefore, so long as the creatures help you to lead you to the Creator, make use of them. But once you notice that those creatures become a block to communicate with God, to attain God's glory, then you stop it. After his conversion experience, he did penance, but in such a way that it took him to the extremity of the penance. For example, he was not cutting his hair, was not trimming his nails, and he was wearing a sackcloth. Therefore, little boys used to throw stones at him, thinking that he was a madman. Then he realized that it doesn't help for the glory of God. So he started trimming his nails, trimming his hair, and then behaved like a normal human person. Then he was able to approach people very easily. Otherwise, they were afraid of him. Ignatian finding God in all things means to realize that God is the source and summit of all creation. because He is the Alpha and Omega of the universe. Therefore, when we look at creatures, naturally we see them as reflections of the unconditional love of God. If you look at the whole universe, they are all meant for man. God created human beings and He created other creatures so that He may make use of them and glorify God. Therefore, the last meditation, finding God in all things. Look at the creatures, contemplate where do they come from, why do they come from, for whom are they created. They are for me, and therefore I don't need to go to the chapel to find God. Certainly you can find God, but in the creatures themselves, water, birds, animals, air, Panchakudanga, everywhere God is available. Ignatian cura personalis. Now, this is a Latin term which means care for the individual person. Actually, this phrase was applied in the beginning to the Jesuit communities. That means each one cares for others, cura personalis. That means to find out the needs of each person and also to find out what are the challenges he faces in his life. So earlier it was applied to Jesuit communities. Later on, when Jesuits started universities, colleges and schools, they applied this principle of caring for others to students, staff and Jesuit teaching community. Therefore, cura personalis means to have concern and love and develop holistic personalities in our schools and colleges. Ignatian concept of contemplatives in action. Contemplation is union with God, and normally we talk about contemplation as it only exists in the prayer time individually. But for Ignatius, that you carry your monastery, as it were, with you wherever you go, and you are being charged with the grandeur of God in everything and everywhere. That means every moment becomes a sacrament. This is what contemplatives in action means. In fact, this word was used by Nadal. Nadal was a great spiritual scholar on the constitutions of the Society of Jesus. He used the word, but it is according to the mind of Saint Ignatius. Union of mind and heart and soul is another mantra the Jesuits use in order to enhance the character of a person. That means unity in thought, word and deed. And in the Ratio Studiorum, that is the way the Jesuits teach in the schools and colleges and universities, they performed arts and drama. In fact, physics, science and maths were compulsory in their curriculum. So, besides developing the memory mind, but they also developed emotions. In fact, in 17th century, Jesuits had 40 theaters. They prepared dramas, classical as well as modern, and performed in different places. And thus, they gathered accolades to the glory of God and the Jesuit society. That is called union of mind and heart. Ignatian discernment means to find out the will of God in all my actions and in all my dealings with others. In fact, discernere in Latin means to distinguish between what is good and what is bad. Discernment is to try to learn the will of God. Right at this moment, what should I do? To what direction should I go? Therefore, Ignatian discernment would mean that in prayer we can develop sensitivity of the heart and mind to listen to the voice of God, which will guide me in my life. The discernment is a very great virtue. What comes from the good spirit, what comes from the bad spirit, we will be able to discern and recognize and acknowledge and develop God's will. It's a virtue to be practiced, and this can be practiced easily through Ignatian examination of consciousness. Ignatian template of our way of proceeding consists in personal contact with God, so that all my actions are dedicated to the adoration of the Lord. In the Society of Jesus, there is a special way of proceeding with the neighbors, students, and the teachers. So our way of proceeding means our way is uniquely charged by the presence of God, and godly presence will lead us to explore the faculty of our mind and heart and soul. And therefore, especially when we deal with others, the Jesuits were inspired by our moral values. All these are instilled in the heart of our students and teachers. Thus, Jesuits also need to experience this, our way of proceeding, and act upon it for His greater glory and the good of people. Ignatian template of faith that does justice. Normally, we in our apostolate, certainly we develop the faith of the people, strengthen their faith life, devotional life, but justice should be integrated in the manner of instilling faith in the hearts of people. Because today when we look around, there are a lot of injustices in the world. Sometimes people in their own countries become refugees, and a lot of injustice is done to the marginalized people. And therefore, we need to have an immersion experience in order to understand the agony and ecstasy of the marginalized people and train our youngsters, not only Jesuits, our students also, instilling into their hearts the need for strengthening and communicating justice in the world. Therefore, today, especially the marginalized people, the people have no address, as it were, refugees, are denied their right to live a decent life. That is what it means for Jesuits, faith that does justice. Ignatius' understanding of interreligious dialogue. In the 34th General Congregation of the Society of Jesus, this was brought out in a special way because we live among people who practice different faiths, who profess different religion. And especially today, when there is religious fundamentalism, when there is religious fanaticism, we need to all the more practice and develop inter-religious dialogue. After all, every person is a child of God. Religions are created by man, but we must go beyond religion and treat every person as an image of God, as a child of God. Therefore, especially today, there are so many wars in the name of religion. Religion originally in Latin means to bind together, but in the name of religion, we are divided and we attack one another, kill one another. Therefore, the Society of Jesus, the 34th General Congregation, insisted that we should develop inter-religious dialogue and understanding of other faiths and thus live a life of harmony and peace and love. Ignatian men and women for others, not only for others, even with others, because we are not masters looking down upon servants, but we are all equal in the eyes of God. Therefore, service of God must lead to the service of man. Like St. James in his letter says, faith without action is dead. So our actions should develop the faith and we must elevate the good manner of living for others. Therefore, it is not only for others but with others. That means I live with the smell of the sheep. I go down to them and be with them, identify myself with them. That is called men and women for others and with others. Ignatian formation of educating people to be men for others. Now, this is a great challenge because in our schools and colleges and universities, we come across various types of students. Therefore, we have to know the background of their life, what their needs are, and what are the challenges they face in their life, and accordingly organize programs to develop the basic needs of the persons. And every Jesuit institution must instill in the hearts of people which is towards justice and performing fully according to their knowledge and ability. Ignatian method of forming others in developing their emotions and their actions. And we have already seen that Jesuits prepare men and women for others. It's a great challenge to perform their needs, to inform their emotions and develop their talents. So it's a call to commit oneself to develop the creativity which is embedded in the person's personality, and thus we can prepare men and women for social justice and fight for the liberation of the people who are marginalized.